Welcome to the Steve Stine Guitar Podcast, brought to you by guitar-Zoom.com. If you want to improve your guitar playing, keep listening. If you want to improve even faster, go to guitar-Zoom.com, where you'll find all of Steve's premium courses, masterclasses, and memberships that'll help you quickly and easily improve your playing. Now here's your host, Steve Stine.
All right, hello and welcome to the Steve Stine Podcast. Today what we're going to be doing is talking to my 12-year-old daughter, Imogen Stine, which is going to be really interesting because I thought, hey, what the heck, we'll actually just talk about music and her upbringing being around music and, of course, unfortunately and fortunately at the same time, being around me all the time. So how are you doing, Imogen?
I'm doing fine.
Good. I'm so glad to have you here. We just never see each other.
Yeah, we don't.
All right, so let's go ahead and get started. Tell me a little bit about music for you. Being a 12-year-old, where do you hear most of your new music? When you're looking for something new, where do you usually hear it from?
I usually hear it from you or TikTok.
Well, and that's what I wanted to talk about because my age group, I avoid TikTok the plague. So I don't need any more social media sites to have to deal with. I'm not even on TikTok. I think I've got an account just to protect my brand out there, but I don't do anything with it. Your age group, do you think TikTok is the thing that everybody spends most of their time on?
Yeah, I wish it wasn't like that, but I spend a lot of my time on that, and sometimes I feel ashamed of myself. Once I get off of TikTok, I'm like, wow, I spent a long time. It gets a little addicting. Well,
when it comes to music, do you hear people performing songs, or do you hear songs in the background, or how do you usually get interested in new music?
Well, usually I just hear music usually in the background. I don't get a lot of like rap songs or stuff like that because that's not my interest. I just get people either like lip syncing to something maybe or just dancing to something or...
So then if you hear a song that you like that somebody's dancing to, how do you figure out who it is?
I look at the sound. Usually the sound tells stuff, and if it doesn't, you look up the lyrics.
Oh, I guess that makes sense. Okay, so when I think about you, Immy is what we call her, and I think about how when you were younger and the music that you used to listen to, and again, my job isn't to judge people's music. If you like it and it makes you feel good, then that's what you should listen to. But when I think about what you used to listen to versus what you listen to now, you can chime in too, but it seems like you used to listen to more current stuff and now you listen to more classic stuff or maybe a mixture of both. I mean, do you still listen to stuff that you used to? Like you used to listen to a lot of Billie Eilish. I mean, I don't know all the stuff that you used to listen to, but there was a lot of stuff I didn't know.
Yeah, I used to listen to a lot of that stuff, but I feel like I grew out of it a bit and I wanted to try like a new genre of music. And now I've been getting into more like the 70s and 80s music. I like that a lot better than what I used to listen to. And I feel like it's just kind of my thing. And it's something I do like to listen to in my free time. I listen to a lot of that stuff when I draw or I sit down or I'm doing makeup or playing a game. I just listen to a lot of that stuff.
Right. Well, I remember when you were little, you were huge into Kiss. I had like Kiss dolls and stuff that people had donated to me and things like that. And I gave her all of those things. And she used to listen to Kiss all the time. And she used to watch Kiss Meets a Phantom all the time. And then you grew out of the Kiss phase. Not that you probably don't still listen to Kiss a little bit, but she just recently got a record player and she's been buying records. What was the first record that you bought?
Queen Greatest Hits.
And then what was the second one you bought?
Fleetwood Mac Rumors.
Right. So I find that very interesting because it's very parallel to my being a kid and getting my own record player and buying my own records, which I had those as well. I had many different records. And I'm not trying to be weird about this, but how do you think growing up with me has impacted the music that you listen to or your interest in music in general?
Well, when I used to sit in the car and wear headphones and listen to my own music, I would sometimes hear your music through what I was listening to with headphones in the car. And I would just pause my music and listen to what you were listening to. I was like, wow, that's really good. So I would look at the screen thing on the car that showed the music that you listen to, and I would be like, okay. So I'd look that song up on Spotify and I'd listen to it. And then I just took my own road off. Like I would listen to playlists with this genre and I would just look at what you were listening to and I would listen to it myself.
Yeah, I find that interesting. I have noticed you do that sometimes. And obviously my wife and I listen to more rock, hard rock, metal stuff oftentimes. And let's talk about instrumentation a little bit. When it comes to learning instruments, I know you tried piano for a little bit. And for me, being a teacher, and for anybody out there that has been a teacher and also has children that you're trying to teach, you might realize that it's very difficult to do because when you're teaching, you put on your teacher cap and you become a teacher and you stop becoming a parent or stop being a parent and you become that teacher. And so teaching your own children, which I've had many other musicians that have brought their students or their kids to me to be a student just for that reason. And my oldest daughter, who's now 21, she took lessons for a little while with me, but I very much felt what that was like to try and teach your own children. And I remember when you first started trying to take piano lessons, which it was a few years ago. I don't remember how many years ago. What was it? Probably 3 years ago, maybe? 4 years ago?
It was the second or third grade.
Because we lived in the old house, right?
Yep.
Okay. So it was probably 4 years ago. And I warned you that the thing about learning how to play an instrument is that you have to practice every day. That's the only way you can learn. You can't just do it once a week or something like that. I hope you're enjoying this episode so far and you're getting motivated to take your guitar playing to the next level. Please do me a favor and leave us a rating on Apple Podcasts. It'll help the show grow and reach more rock stars like you who want to improve their guitar playing. Also, I'd love to know what parts of the episode you liked, as well as what you learned. So please share this podcast and tag us at guitar-zoom.com on your social post. And now, let's get back to the podcast. So tell me, how was that experience of taking piano lessons for you?
Well, I personally think I was a bit young at the time to really be involved in it. But at the time, I got bored with it, and I was always hanging out with friends, and I'd forget about it. And I don't think I was involved in it as much as I would probably be now if I joined piano again.
Yeah, because I mean, the same rules would apply, except the lessons are probably more expensive for me right now. But you have to practice all the time. That's the thing about this. Both my kids were dancers. They were involved in dance for many years. And with Imi, she enjoyed dancing, but obligatory dancing every day, practice of dancing didn't always happen. And it didn't have to happen, but that's the hard part about playing an instrument. Like I know you've shown interest in drums, for instance, where drums are, unless you get an electronic drum kit, drums are pretty loud and they're pretty big. And so they take up some space, but just like anything else, they require time to practice. So you think at the ripe old age of 12, you'd practice more if you started doing something like that?
Yeah, I think so. Because when I was younger, I wasn't involved in music as much as I am now. And I know a lot more category and a lot more diversity than I did when I was younger. Sure. And so I have a feeling that I could be more involved and have more music category in what I'm playing.
And people always ask me this, which I've never really asked you this before, but with a dad who plays guitar and has copious amounts of guitars everywhere, how come it is that you're not really interested in playing guitar?
Well, I remember trying once, and I don't know, I just wasn't my thing. I know I only tried for like 5 minutes, but it just wasn't, I don't know, didn't take much interest in it.
Right, which is just so interesting to me. I mean, neither one of my kids play, like my oldest plays some guitar, but she doesn't play a lot of guitar. But again, maybe too, that you just have been around it so much that you don't really think about it, where a set of drums might be more enticing because you don't see it all the time and it looks more interesting, where maybe if I play drums for a living, you'd look at guitar differently too, who knows? We've got a show coming up pretty soon. I don't know when this podcast would go up, but we're going to see our first metal show. I'm bringing Imi to Minneapolis, and what bands are we going to go see? Do you remember?
No.
We're going to see Poppy,
Yep.
Gojira,
Yep.
and the Deftones.
Yep. I've only heard Poppy. That's the only one I've heard. I haven't heard it. I think I've heard one song from Gojira.
Yeah, and you've heard more than one song because we play it in the car quite a bit, but you probably don't know what it is.
I'm just not really familiar with it, but I'm still going because why not? It's fun.
Well, and you've got time right now to listen to some music by the other artists, by the Deftones and that thing to get comfortable with. But yeah, just that musical experience of doing different things. So I thought it would be fun to just let people know, because the big thing that I think is so different between your generation and my generation, among many other things, but just the fact that we found music on the radio. That's how I found music, was by listening to the radio. Or a friend would have an album. At that time, it might have been a cassette or something. And you'd go over to their house and you'd go, oh, wow, what is this? And then they'd play it for you and you'd get to know it that way. Where that doesn't really exist much for you anymore because everything is digital. Like at our house, I got rid of my records years ago. Everything for us is digital. So is there any other ways that you tend to find out about artists or music to listen to besides like TikTok?
Well, from you. I find a lot of music from you. And I've been learning to not use headphones every single time we go into the car. And I would go, oh, you pick a song. So I can discover different songs. Or sometimes I'll look up on Spotify a 70s and 80s playlist. And I might not even know the song. I just go down and listen to them and see what I like. And I'd add them to a playlist.
So when you think of your friends, like your closest friends, do they listen to much music?
No, I've tried to get them to listen to the music that I do so I can talk to them about it. But they have a lot of different style than I do with music because they like more modern and I like more 70s, 80s, maybe a little bit of 60s.
But they still have interest in music.
They do have interest in music, just not as in the timeline that I did. They have a more modern.
Well, that makes sense. I mean, that's the beauty of it is what Imi was referring to. Sometimes what we do is we drive around and we each pick a song. Sometimes what we'll do is we'll just go back and forth with each person picking songs, but sometimes what we'll try and do is piggyback a song off the last song that's like the last song in some capacity, maybe the style of the song or whether it's mellow or whether it's heavier or more energetic or something, and we'll go back and forth, which again, I used to do with my oldest daughter as well. And so we would listen to each other's music. And I think that's really important too. For me, being 50 years old, I'm not just stuck in the 70s or the 80s. There's so much great music from that era, but that doesn't mean there's not great music out there right now, because there's just great music all over the place. You just have to be open to it. And I think that's a trap when you get older, is that you tend to just listen to a certain genre of music and you don't really listen to anything else. And then you think music is dead. There's nothing new happening when there's a lot of new stuff happening all the time. And really, Poppy's kind of an example of that. That's a perfect example of an artist who's taken elements of death disco, the whole Rob Zombie kind of Marilyn Manson, Nine Inch Nails stuff, and then combine it with Japanese pop, different kinds of things like that. There's a lot of stuff going on there. And some of it is very interesting to me. It's very intriguing to me. And with Imi and I will go back and forth with listening to different music. I learned stuff from you too. I just find it interesting when all of a sudden I'll hear her singing a song, some 70s song by whoever it might be, Culture Club or whoever it would be, and always wonder where that comes from. I just assume that a lot of times that probably comes from TikTok.
Not all the time. It's either from TikTok, but it's not mainly. It might be from a playlist that I've listened to.
That's a wonderful thing. And that's something for everybody listening too, is learning from playlists. One thing I like to do on Spotify is you'll listen to an artist that you like, and then at the bottom of the screen, there's related artists. So then you'll go through those related artists and go, oh, here's somebody that either I haven't listened to a long time or I've never really heard of before. And that's how I find a lot of like the instrumental guitar players that I listen to and things like that, is by doing that as well. So, well, thank you, Imogen, for joining me today. I know it was pretty tough to get here. Did you have to take an airplane or anything to get here? Or
I rode bike.
So anyway, everybody take care, stay positive, and keep practicing. And Imi and I will talk to you soon. So take care, Imi. Thank you so much for being here.
Bye.
Bye. If you enjoyed today's podcast and want to learn guitar even faster, go to guitarzoom.com and click the Get Started button to get access to courses that are right for your interest and skill level. Again, go to guitarzoom.com and click the Get Started button.